Now, so let's get started. Hello, everyone, to this fourth Python programming intro class. It's me, Mr. Nawasu again. I hope you all had a good spring break and everything. Let's see if I have any announcements. So for next class, next Monday, I'm thinking of doing the class from the club headquarters in Rockville so that I get the chance to meet you guys face to face and I could go over any questions or issues that you may have. So Mrs. Hay posted as a survey to see, like in an email to see if you guys were interested in something like that.
Our parents were emailed?
Yeah, your parents should have been emails, or you may have received an email yourselves too.
Yeah, check with your parents. We'll send an email to your parents. Yeah.
So if coming in person on Monday works for you, that's great. If not, I'm still doing a virtual session, so you could still tune in from your laptops at home when I do the lecture from Rockville next Monday. And yeah, okay. So let's see. I suppose we can get started now. Are there any questions about the first homework solution? The solutions for the first homework, the one with where you had to find the surface area and the volume of a cylinder given the radius and the height. Any questions about that? I think the main issue with that one was using math.py correctly. So using it incorrectly may have introduced some unwanted bugs. Let me just prepare my IDE quickly so I can share my screen. Okay. So let me share an example solution for the first homework. So we declare variables R and H to be 6 and 12, and then we just follow the formula for the surface area and the volume of a cylinder to come up with our SA and B variables. And then we simply just print them out. And this is what we get in the bottom. The surface area is 678.58, and the volume is 1,357.16 about. So that's the first homework. And it doesn't seem like you guys had too much trouble with that one. And then we had the second homework that it was a little more involved. Let's go through the instructions for the second homework again, which is due today. So for this homework 2, we know that the colors can be defined using the red, green, blue system. Red, green, blue values can each be an integer between 0 and 55. Use random to generate 3 values for RGB respectively, then go to a color picker to see what color it is and submit a screenshot. And then use math to find the factorial value of the red value and the forward division of green over 5. So to do this, we could break this down a little bit. First, you have to use random.randint to randomly generate 3 numbers between 0 and 55. So that's what I'm doing on these lines here. I have R is equal to random int 0 to 225, and the same thing for G and B. So any questions about how I derived R, G, and B here? All right. So if I were to run this, we have our RGB values here. So red is 200, green is 23, and blue is 233. And if I were to even run this a few times, we could see that it changes. So now the the colors, the integer values have changed. Run it one more time, they changed again. So let's use these values. I'll go to a color picker website, RGB color picker. So we know that red is 175. Green is 49. And blue is 138. So with that, we get this color right here. So I would expect you guys to just take a screenshot of your screens with something like this and add that to one of your submissions. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for. Any questions about what I did here? And the last part was using stuff with factorial and floor division. So to do that, to find the factorial of the red value, I use math.factorial right here, math.factorial, and then I pass the value of R. And then to do floor division in Python, remember that it's going to be 2 forward slashes like this. So I did G and then 2 forward slashes, which is floor division by 5. And that's how I got these values down here. So since 175 factorial is a big number, we get this huge number right here. I'm not really expecting you guys to do the whole screenshot for the whole numbers, but if you did, it's fine. And we did 49 divided by 5, which is about 9 point something. Yeah. And since this is floor division, we just get 9. So that's part 1 of the homework. Any questions about that? Factorial and floor division. Now, part 2 of the homework was we imagine that we have 100 different colored candies in a bag, and we're allowed to reach in and grab 10 of them. 70 of the candies are red, 20 are green, and 10 are blue. And we want to simulate a possible grab. So to do that, the main thing that we use is random dot choices in the Python's random library. So we remember that the random dot choices function is you're able to assign weights to a value in the list, and also you can assign a k that is like how many guesses that you want to make, pretty much. So what I did was that I made a list with R, G, and B here, just to simulate red, green, and blue. And then I did random choices, and then I passed my list. I passed my weights, which is 70, 20, and 10. So red has a weight of 70, green has a weight of 20, blue has a weight of 10. And then I passed K, which is equal to 100, which will make it so that there will be 100 guesses that it makes. Yep, Ivan?
I made my weight 7, 2, and 1, and K is equal to 10. Is that the same thing? Because I saw there were zeros in all of them, so I kind of just took it out, but I kind of meant the same thing.
Yeah, for the weights, that should be fine, but for the K, we're looking for 100 guesses. So if you just put 10, it would just do 10 guesses. So if I were to run this, there's going to be 100 guesses that are made here. But if I were to change this to 10, there's only going to be 10 guesses. And we want to simulate 100 grabs.
Yo, but the question said ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. So we only want to grab 10 of them. I should have read that even more closely then. In that case, Ivan, you are correct in that the K should be 10. The weights, though, see, I wonder if the weights of 7, 2, and 10 should. The weights of 7, 2, and 10 should actually be fine in that case, I suppose, because we're only grabbing 10 of them. Oh, wait. Yes, 70, 20, 10 or 7, 20, 10 or 7, 2, 10. Sorry, it's 7, 2, and 1. That should work, I think, but let's give it a test run and see if there's any differences. So right now it's 70, 20, and 10. There should be, I'm not sure if that'll work then. Let's try 7, 2. We should be seeing a lot more reds than greens and blues. And yeah, I think that follows here. Yep, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I believe that the weights should actually be 7, 2, and 1, as you said, Ivan. I'm not sure if 70, 20, and 10 would work because when we're looking at these here, there doesn't seem to be as much reds as there should be when I run this rant. Actually, yeah. I take that back, actually. 70, 20, and 10 should work. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth here, but anyway, so the bottom line is that for the weights, 70, 20, and 10 should work, and also 7, 2, and 1 shouldn't make much of a difference either. So yep, any questions about random dot choices and the homework and the homework 2? Any questions about homework 2? All right. Let me just post the solution for this quickly, and then we can get on to the lecture for the lecture for this class. All right. So day 4. Let's see, review. So you guys remember Booleans from last class? Booleans are pretty much just true and false. So bool of 123 is going to output true because whenever you pass a number that's not 0, it's going to output true. And then we have things like 45 greater than 25, that'll output true because 45 is greater than 23. And then we have a bool of 0 that's going to output a false because that's just how bool works. Whenever you pass in a 0, it's going to output false. And then when you have true or false, the output is true because with ORs, you only need one true for the whole thing to be true. So a quick little Boolean review. All right, so the main topic for today's lecture is going to be Python strings. A string is a data type, just like an integer being a data type. It is amongst the most popular types in Python. We can create them simply by enclosing characters in quotes. Python treats single quotes the same as double quotes. Creating strings is as simple as assigning a variable to a variable. It's as simple as assigning a value to a variable. So strings are data types. A string can be enclosed in a single quote or a double quote, but not mixed. So something like a single quote, hello world works. A double quote, hello world works. But having a double quote and a single quote would give an error. So you have to be consistent with single quotes or double quotes when enclosing a string.
Wait, for it to say this, do we need to do print?
It depends on what you're using. So it looks like they're using the interpreter here. So if I just do hello world, it'll print out hello world. But if I do this in the Python IDE, if I do this on PyCharm, if I just do hello world, it's not going to print anything because because I need the print statement here. But for the interpreter, since the interpreter is a little, I won't say smarter, but the print is kind of implied when you're using, when you just,
So I just try to print parenthesis, quote, hello world, unquote, close parenthesis, and it worked.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, Henry? Do you have a question, Henry?
Wait, so can you put like anything in between the quotes, like gibberish, like numbers, letters, anything?
Yes, you can. So I could just put a bunch of gibberish here. And Python will just take everything in there and make it a string. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yep, I could put in even like numbers in here, some numbers. And it would still be a string. So yep, hope that answers your question. Let's see. A backslash can be used to escape other special characters. We could take a quick look at this tutorial's point page to see what they mean by escape characters. Yes, so some examples of escape characters are, let's see, backslash n, which adds a new line. We have backslash s, which makes a space, backslash t, which makes a tab. So in most cases, we use backslash n to make a new line and backslash t to make a tab. So just to show you guys what I mean, I could have a string that says hello and then world. And what you'll notice is that, oh no, whoops. Hello world, and then you can have a new line here. Okay, that didn't work the way I thought it would. Maybe it'll work better in the interpreter. Let's see. Okay. It would appear better if I put it here. Anyway, perfect. So you see the new line in action. So what the new line escape character did was that it added a new line between hello and world, which is why we see two lines here. And if I were to change this to a T, it would add a tab between hello and world. So just some examples of escape characters in Python. Right, let's move on. Okay, yeah, we have a bunch of more escape characters here. So this will be a nice reference to use. Any questions about escape characters in Python and Python strings? All right. Now, code statements in Python do not have to have a terminating symbol. A hard return signals that the statement stops. If a statement is long and you want to write it in multiple lines, put a backslash in the end of the line. This tells the system the next line is a continuation of the statement. So what this slide means is that Python it's not like Java or C where you need a semicolon to end a line. You could just write lines however you want. But if you have a really long line and you want to break it up, then you can use a backslash. So for example, if I have a line like, I don't know, print D, and I want to continue this on the next line, I could do something like that. Just add a backslash, another backslash. And if I were to print this, it would print, oh no. Interesting. You remove a few quotes here, I think. No? Okay, I think this works. Yeah. All right, so these backslashes here, the main things they do is just break up lines, like really long lines. So it's pretty much just used to make your code look neater. So I could have these instead of just having a one like really long line that might be hard for people to read. Yeah, even now it's hard to even see the end of this line here, but you could break it up with backslashes. Okay. And this slide kind of gives an example of that. So they have a long string and they break it up with backslashes and new lines. And then they print out hello. So any questions about backslashes and how they can break up long lines in Python? Okay. Now, Python raw strings. A raw string will treat everything between the quotes as string characters. So this line right here is an example of that. If I were to copy this and put this in my IDE. Also, not going to print anything, is not printing out hello, but if I were to do, if I were to print out hello here, it just prints out the whole thing. Now, one question you guys might have is what's the difference between raw strings and regular strings? So what I'll do is that I'm going to add some code here, then I'll ask you guys a question. Here, so I made a variable hello1, that's just a regular string. And I made another variable hello2 that is a raw string. Now, can you guys try to tell me what the difference between these two strings are? This regular string and this raw string. And what makes a raw string raw is that we added an R right before the first quote. So when I print these out, can you guys maybe tell me the differences you see?
Well, there's like a slash in slash on the raw one because that's just what you wrote.
Yep, exactly. Yes, nice catch, James. So with raw strings, it takes literally everything that you put in between the two enclosing quotes and makes it a string. It even ignores escape characters and acts like the escape characters are part of the string. But with regular strings, it looks to see if there are escape characters, and it looks to see if there are escape characters, and it acts accordingly. So that's the main difference between regular strings and raw strings. Okay. Strings can be concatenated together or added together with the plus operator and repeated with the star symbol. So this code right here kind of is an example of that. So I will say we could have a word. How do they do it here? Okay. So we have word is equal to help plus me. So when we have syntax like this, a string followed by a plus, an addition sign followed by another string, what's going to happen is that Python will just add these two words together. They'll just concatenate them. So now we could see that help plus me turns into help me, and there's not even a space between them. if you want to add a space, we got to add a space between in one of the words, like as I've just done, to add a space here. So the plus operator on strings just concatenates two strings together. It just brings them together. And then a similar thing we could do is that we could use the multiplication. We could use the multiplication symbol on a string to make it appear even more. So what I did was that I printed word times 5. So what it did was just print help me out. It just prints help me 5 times. Maybe I should add a space here so that things are easier to see. Let's see, maybe like that. There we go. Yep. So by doing this times 5 syntax on a word on a string like this, we get it multiplies it by 5, and it is, yeah, it's a neat thing that Python's able to do with strings. So any questions about concatenation and also with multiplying a string by an integer to make it repeat? All right. Python string indexes. Each character in a string has a position. The position value is the index. Indices always start at 0. So we could think of indices as like being the position of a word in a position of a character in a string. So if I were to do, let me just comment this stuff out. Word 0, what this will do is print out the first character in word, which is H. If I were to put in 1, word square brackets 1, it's going to output E, because E is the second letter here. Now, what if I were to put in words for square brackets 2, what do you guys think will be outputted? If I do word square brackets 2, I should get the third letter in help me. And help me is, the third letter in help me is L. So that's how we get L here. So this is how indices and strings work. And remember that indices always start at 0. So the first letter will be 0. We'll have index 0. Indices can also be a negative number. However, the index cannot be a number greater than the number of characters in the string. So to show that, if I were to do word, if I try to get the 100th index in word, which is help me, I'm going to get an error because the string index is out of range. Okay, pretty straightforward. And if I were to do -1, do word -1, what will happen is that I'll get the last character in help me. And the last character is actually an empty space because I put an empty space here. But if I were to remove the empty space, we should get E when I do the index of -1. Now here's a little question for you guys. What do you think will happen if I were to try to get the character at index -2? So remember that -1 is E. What would -2 get me? This is kind of a tricky question.
Wait, I don't know. I'm not sure.
So -1 gives us E, the last character in help me. So if I were to do -2,
Is it ME?
it's just M,
Oh,
the second to last character in help me. If I were to do 3, it's going to be an empty space because that's this character right here. But if I were to do -4, we're going to get the fourth to last character in help me, which is E, M, space, and P. We should get P when we do -4. Well, so that's the pattern with string indices. That's the way it might help to think about it. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay. So we could also use the index method to get the index of a character in a string. If the character occurs multiple times, it will return the first index. So to show you guys this in action, if I were to do word.index P, if we want to find the index of P, I need to print it. Right. If we were to find the index of P, we'll get 3. Because P has index 3. Remember that we start from 0. So 0 is H, 1 is E, L is 2, and then P is 3. That's why we get 3 here. Now, can you guys tell me what would happen? What do you think will happen if I try to get the index of letter E and help me? There are 2 E's. So which one will Python choose?
No, I'm just guessing. It's probably the first one.
Yes, that's a good guess, James. That's exactly right. It's going to choose the first one. And the slide says so too. If a character occurs multiple times, it will return the first index. And we don't only have to put one character. If I were to put ELP, and we want to get the index of that, it's going to give us 1 because the substring ELP starts with E, and E has index 1. Now, if I were to put HELP or help, what do you guys think the index will return?
0.
Yep, and why is that? Yep, so we get 0 because H has index 0 in the word help me, in the string help me. Okay. We can also slice the string. So substrings can be specified with the slice notation, 2 indices separated by a colon. So to give you guys an example of that, if I were to do word followed by square brackets and then 0 and 2, what this will do is that it'll get the character. I need to print it out. What this will do is that it will print out the characters at position 0 and 1. And it leaves out 2, right? Because the 2 is non-inclusive. So really, it'll just look at 0 and 1 and then leave out 2 when I do word square bracket 0 colon 2. Yeah, it just prints out H and E. Now, if I were to do 0 to 3, it's going to do HEL, which is 0, 1, and 2. Now, if I were to do 0 to 4, what do you guys think will be printed out?
The word help?
Exactly. Nice job, Ivan. We got the word help. We could even do something like 2 to 4. So this one will start at position 2, which is L, and it'll end at position 3, which is P, so it should CLP. Yep, LP. So was an example of string slicing. Now slice indices have useful defaults, and omitted first index defaults to 0, and omitted second index defaults to the size of the string being sliced. So what this means by that is that if I were to do print word and then something like just 2, so when we just omit the first, the thing on the left side of the colon, it's just going to be 0. So if I were to run this and print it, it's going to do H and E because Python is assuming that what I omitted was 0. And the same thing if I were to do 2 in the left and then nothing after the colon on the right. So what this will do is Python will assume that I'm putting in the length of the string. So this will do is that it'll print out everything from position 2, index 2, all the way to the end of the string. So we should see LP space me. Right. And same thing if I were to do, let's see, 1. It'll print out ELP space me. If I were to do, let's say 4, it'll print out space followed by me. So there's a bit of a pattern here. I have a question for you guys. What do you think will happen if I don't put anything in here? I just have nothing on the left or the right. What will be printed out?
Everything.
Just
Very
normal.
good. Yep, everything would be printed out because Python is assuming that what's on the left is 0 and what's on the right is the length of the string. So we're printing out everything from the start of the string to the end of the string, which is just the whole string. Did everyone get that? Okay. So. A third number can be added to the slice notation, which determines the step. By default, the step is equal to 1. So now we're getting a little bit into the details here. Let's see. So right now we've been working with only 2 values. Now we're going to add a third one, which involves the step. Now the step is the third value. So what I have here is 1 colon and then another colon and then 2. What this will print out is H, L, and E. And the reason why this is printed out because we start at 0, which is E. And since we have steps of 2, we're going to skip E and then print out L. And then we're going to skip P and then print out an empty space. And then we're going to skip M and then print out E. That's what the step notation here is doing. So normally, this is assumed to be 1 when you don't specify it.
Yeah. When I tried that, I got HL.
HL what?
M. HL and M.
Do you have 2 colon? Actually, okay. I think the reason why you got that is because I have an empty space in between my P and the quote.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. So I put a space and I got that.
Yeah. So yes, let's see. If I were to change this to just 1, it'll just print out the whole string like normal. So one question I have from you guys is what happens if I were to put 3 here? We have a step of 3. What will be printed out? kind of tricky.
I think I'll print HPE.
Yep. Nice job, Ivan. H, P, and E. That's what's printed out because we're going on steps of 3 now. So we print out H, skip E and L and go to P, and then skip the empty space and M, and then print out E. And this even works in reverse too. So if I were to put a -1 here, yeah, if I were to put a -1 here, what this will do is print out the letters in help me, but in reverse. So it just flips the string around. It flips around because we have -1 as our step. So it starts from the end and then it starts printing it from the back. No, and then if we were to put -2, then what will happen is that we still print from back to front, but we're skipping every other letter from back to front. So these are one of those things that you play around with for a while and gain an intuition for, and it becomes a lot clearer what's happening in the back end, kind of. So any questions about string slicing? Okay, let's move on. Now the built-in Python function len returns the length of a string. So len and then word. Functions to find the max and min alphabetical character in a string is also just max and min. These are pretty straightforward. If I were to print out len of word and print out max of word and print min of word, what we get is 7 is the length of the word because we have 7 characters in here, including the empty space. And then the largest letter in help me is P because it comes last in the alphabet. And the smallest letter in help me, or at least in the string that I have, is just the empty space. So that's why nothing's being printed down here. Maybe it'll be easier if I, at least for now, to remove an empty space. All right. So now when I remove the empty space, we get capital H as our min, because I guess in Python, it goes from capital A to capital Z, and then from lowercase a to lowercase c. So that's why we get H there. And I guess space comes before all of that, which is why when I add a space back in here, it's the min character again. Okay. We could use the count function in Python to find out how many times a character appears in a string. So if I were to print out print word.count e, we get 2 because e appears twice in help me. If I were to put capital H, we should just get 1 because capital H only appears once in help me. If I were to put Z, which doesn't appear at all in help me, we should get 0. So the count function works pretty straightforward. You just give it a string, you give it a character that you're interested in, and then it prints out how many times that character occurs in your string. And you could also add a beginning and end index which will be more relevant for longer strings, really. But since help me is kind of a shorter string, we can add in something like 1 to 4. So we're counting how many times E appears in between indices, let's say 0 and 4. Now, yes, James?
I misclicked.
So we should only see it once because we're only looking at help, which is 0 to 4. Well, help and the empty space. So that's why we're getting 1 this time. But if I were to remove the second part, the 0 and 4, and we print out E, then we do count E, we get 2 because we're looking at the whole string now. All right, time for a quiz. Select the correct output of the following string operation. So we have a string 1 that's equal to welcome, and we're printing out string at index 0 to 6. And we're concatenating that with PyNative, the string PyNative. What should we get? So I'll give you guys a minute to think about this problem. If you think you have it, just type in your answer in the chat. Okay, guys, and keep in mind that there's an empty space in between the quote here and PyNative. There's an empty space right there. Empty space right here between the Py and the native, in between the opening quotes and the PyNative. All right. So this question is a bit trickier. The correct answer, as it turns out, is C. Now let's go through this together. So we are taking string 1 and we're printing and we're getting everything from indices 0 to 6. So we're doing, so remember that indices start at 0. So W is 0, and then E is 1, L is 2, D is 3, O is 4, M is 5. And we leave out the 6th position because we're doing 0 to 5. Well, the last index is always left out. The last one is non-inclusive. So we leave out index 6 and just do 0 to 5. That's why we get welcome, but without the last E. And then we concatenate that with PyNative that has a space. So that's how we get C, the answer in C. And we can verify this in code as well. So if we have our string welcome, and then we print out 0 to 6, and remember that when we don't have anything on the left side of the colon, we are implying that there's a 0 there. We run this and print it out, we get what is in answer C. All right. Here's another quiz. select the correct output of the following string operation. So string one is my name is James Bond, but with a lot of I's and S's. And we have our sub, which is just a substring is, and we're printing out string.count sub of sub and 4. So I'll let you guys think about this one for a minute. Remember that with the count function, when you have a 4 here, that's pretty much where you want to start from. Which index you want to start from.
Wait, for the sub 4 thing, is that a comma in between it?
Yes, that is a comma.
But when I put a comma, is this supposed to be like red?
It
Wait, never mind. I'm pretty sure it works. Yeah.
right? So the correct answer to this is actually B, 6. And the reason it's 6 is just because we are starting our count from index 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're pretty much counting all the times that is appears in this string right here. And is appears in this string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, which is B. And we could corroborate this by running some code. So by just copying and pasting, we can see that we also get 6 here. Right, we got some more Python string functions. Converting a string to all upper or lowercase, we use word.upper or word.lower. So to give an example of this, do word.upper, it prints out help me in all caps. If we print word.lower, it prints out help me in all lowercase. So 2 straightforward functions. We can also use, if you want to check if a string starts or ends with a character or a substring, we can use word.starts with, and then you put in what we think it starts with, and then the same with ends with. And another very useful string function in Python is the strip function. So strip removes the starting and ending white spaces in a word. So let's see, how much stuff do we have here? So I'll just show what the syntax for strip is. It's word.strip, like that. And then if we print it, it just prints the same thing because we have no white space, no starting or ending white space in help me. So that's why it appears to be the same thing. And then we still have our start with and end with. I've actually never really seen these 2 functions actually be used in the wild. I've never used them myself, so I'm not sure how useful they really are, but I guess they could have their uses. Anyway, here's another very powerful function, replace. So the dot replace function replaces all occurrences of a substring with a new substring. And the syntax is replace. You take your old one and then you put in your new one, and then your max. The max is optional, but when it's given in caps, the amount of replacements that are made. If I were to put this whole thing to my IDE, so we have our words is equal to 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. We're going to replace all occurrences of fish with cat. And then we're going to replace and then we're going to do it again, but we're going to do a max of 2. Need to fix this part and this. And I need to print it out. As we can see, in the first line here, every occurrence of fish is replaced with cats. But in the second line, since we specified that the max is 2, it only replaced the first 2 instances of fish, but it left the last 2 instances alone. So that's replace. And then we have the string split. The method split returns a list of substrings separated by the string sep, as we have here, with the optional argument max split being the maximum number of splits allowed. If an argument for sep is not passed in, the default value of sep is just a white space. So let me just copy and paste this example here. And then I think I'll just get to the homework. All right, let's see if no. Okay, didn't like that. Yep.
When will the recording of this meeting be posted?
It'll be posted sometime this week.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So this is my last bit here. So showing how the split function works. So splits, the first split I used separated a whole new row by just the white space. The second one only did the first 2 splits, like only the first 2 white spaces, and then the third split a whole new row by every occurrence of W. Okay. And sorry that I kind of rushed at the end here, guys, but we needed to talk about replace and split in order for you guys to be able to do the homework. Okay, and lastly, there's zfill. Now zfill adds zeros to the left of a numeric string when it's needed. It understands about plus and minus signs. So I think I'll just post this in my code later today, and then I'll post it to the class website.
Can you also post the split?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I have split in my code right now, so you guys can take a look at this once I post this whole thing. And then there are some quizzes here. So what I think I'll do is I'll post these quizzes throughout the week just to keep you guys' minds fresh about about the contents of this lecture. I'll post these screens throughout the week, and you guys can just take them as you please. And then the homework, there are two parts to the homework. One is on Pig Latin, and then another is on secret code. It's funny how this one's on secret code because at my work, I work with secret codes a lot, actually. Anyway, so I'll post the instructions for this homework tonight as well, or sometime tomorrow. So yep, it's about 7:30 now. I won't keep you guys past lecture because I know I didn't like it when my professors would keep me past the end of lecture time. So if there are no questions, I will see you guys hopefully in person next week.